What happens when we avoid hard conversations? Are you seeking a relationship with better communication, honesty, and acceptance? Do you sometimes wonder if your loved ones and community actually like you for who you really are? Or are you scared that you are only liked for the image that you try to present to the world? If this sounds like you or a loved one, keep listening as this episode is for you. My husband lies to me quite often, actually, and it kills me and our relationship a little bit more with each deception. We've had several conversations about why he continues to lie to me and others, and he continues to plead his case with the idea of his lies or deceptions. They're only white lies or soft lies. He also claims that he commits what I consider betrayals in order to avoid uncomfortable conversations with me, accusing me of how I might act or what I might say if he is honest with me. Plus, he admits that ultimately he wants what he desires, and what he desires may not be in line with my desires. So he lies to get his quick fix while ultimately creating more distance, distrust, and disharmony within our family. I can, in a way, understand why he continues this destructive behavior that is now a pattern in our marriage and maybe even in his own individual life. He does this in an attempt to avoid conflict. See, my husband, he likes to have a good time. He just wants everything to be smooth and mellow. He even says he just wants to have a good time. I just want to have a good time. And I get that. Even I want to have a good time. However, time and time again, this unhealthy habit of his has caused more uncomfortable conversations, has dampened what could have been a really good time, and has caused enormous mountains for us to try to overcome. My sister, she once shared with me something that I found pretty profound. I'd like to share that with you. Because like I mentioned, I want to have a good time too, yet sometimes those uncomfortable conversations they're yucky and it does seem to dampen the mood. However, sometimes some things, they need to be said. So she suggested that before I have a discussion about anything that may result in that yucky, uncomfortable feeling, that I ask myself, is it true? Is it necessary? And is it kind? Because yes, I agree that some things are better left unsaid, except for when they're not. And if some things are better left unsaid, should we lie to cover up the unsaid? I don't think so. Because as most of us know, one lie, as small as it may seem fine, even if it's from like good intentions, right? But that one little lie, it turns into many small lies or even big lies to cover up the whole like tiny little small lie. And then soon we're stuck in a web of lies and can't figure out how to get out. So there we are in our web of lies, frantically trying to get out while our doom moves upon us. I want to share with you, while this is 100% more of an issue for some more than others, guess what? I too have recently realized that I have avoided hard conversations with my husband. Have I blatantly lied to him? No. Have I omitted certain truths that needed to be said? Yes. Yes, I have. I recently had a very hard conversation with him about where my mind is and where my heart is. And this left him very uncomfortable. I think about it and I wonder if I didn't avoid this conversation with myself, where would we be? My husband and I. Because the truth is, there were signs or red flags that I chose to ignore, that I lied to myself about in the very beginning of our relationship. And I think I covered it up with the use of alcohol, really. See, we were very young when we met. I was 26, living close enough to Hollywood and enjoying those Hollywood nights with him. So it was super easy to just throw a little vodka and soda and maybe some champagne on his little white lies to help me minimize a possible mountain of deception that would inevitably emerge in our marriage. I recently read an article about those who have ADHD, and I guess they have a tendency to lie more. This was an article, after I read it, that left me feeling in a way, yes, more understanding about my own situation and in my marriage, but yet also like, well, now what? How do you deal with someone's behavior that you're in a relationship with that they don't even have control over because of the wiring in their brain? This topic of ADHD is also something that, again, my husband likes to avoid because when it comes down to when we avoid these hard conversations, is it really serving us well in the end? And I think the answer is no. Because guess what? If me and my husband would have had the hard conversation about his ADHD and we would have looked into it more and discovered, oh, well, this could be a reason why it's hard for him to be, open and honest. And just like, for me, it's really easy. It's like, yeah, this is what's going on. And now what? But for him, it's like, it's really hard for him. It's bigger for him than it is for me. So, okay. So again, let's go back. Is it better to avoid these hard conversations? And I say, no, it's not, because what it does is it leaves the other person high and dry, and it becomes a valley of avoidance in between you and the other person. What we need to do is we need to trust first ourselves and then those we're in relations with, so that both of us are worth hearing and understanding, even when the truth seems ugly and yucky and uncomfortable. When my husband is able to be truthful to me, you guys, I love it. I feel closer to him. I break down my walls for him. When he's able to do that, I love that. But when he lies, my walls get thicker. I need to protect myself because I can't trust this person. And I hate that. I really hate that, because I'm really trying to open up my heart, because guess what? I deserve to be loved. And how can I give love if I'm not able to receive love with that wall up? Okay, so let's shift a little. How about when we do this to our kids? When we avoid hard conversations with them, right? We actually are robbing them of their own experience of grieving, of being able to learn how to maneuver through life struggles. And they deserve to become stronger with these uncomfortable conversations. Let's be truthful. And I'm one of these people. How many of us have replaced a fish that has died for our kids' feelings' sake? And how many of us are avoiding the conversations with our kids because we're avoiding the conversations with ourselves about our own childhood trauma. So let me share this with you guys. I have suffered with anxiety in the past, so much so that it was hard for me to even get into elevators because of the overwhelming feelings and energy that I could feel from the other people. And it felt like I was stuck in the elevator with the other people and their overwhelming just energy. So I've tried everything: praying, meditation, obviously yoga and healthy eating, getting enough sleep, lots and lots and lots of therapy. And finally, one of my therapists gave me the little nudge of approval to be easier on myself. And they said, if I felt better from smoking a little pot, and when I say a little, I really truly mean a little bit. Like I would take like a little half hit, and most of it was CBD mixed in with a little bit of THC. But trust me, don't worry, I've had plenty of up in smoke days in my past, which, okay, we'll get to in episode 3. Make sure to tune in then. Okay, so back to the story. Well, recently, my son, he came across this pen that I haven't used in probably years, and he asked what it was and how to use it because he thought it was an actual like writing pen. And yes, I 100% did have the temptation to just snatch it from him and put it up high in the medicine cabinet where it should have been in the first place. But instead, somebody put it in the pen cup. Again, I think they thought it was an actual pen and not like a smoking utensil. So instead of doing that and avoiding a pretty embarrassing conversation with my 8-year-old son, I told him the truth that I used it as medicine to help me calm down, and that at that time I wasn't going to show him how to use it because he's, first of all, too young to use it, and he doesn't need it, nor do I need it at this time. But I did absolutely felt like I needed it in the past. My sister also chimed in that it's kind of like wine, she said, which again, it does have a truthful comparison to weed. I spoke the truth. That's what matters. I spoke the truth in front of my sister, my mother-in-law, and my own mom, and obviously my son. But my mom, who has been very, very, very uncomfortable with THC for medicinal use, I spoke the truth. Did I feel like an irresponsible mother at the time? Yep, I sure did. I did. Did I feel embarrassed that the situation unraveled in front of my sister, who is also a mom, my mother-in-law, who obviously I want to have approval from, and my own mother, who I already felt disapproval from in our past interactions? Yes, indeed. It was super uncomfortable and embarrassing and all of that. But did it need to be said? Yes, it did. Indeed, for me and my family, it did. I imagine that the outcome of me hiding it and not saying anything about it, or even telling a lie about what this pen was, maybe if I would have said, oh, honey, it's a pen that doesn't work. But if I did that, that would only prove that my son can't trust me. Because when he does find himself with a group of friends, when he's like of appropriate age and they're passing around this familiar instrument, if I would have lied to him, it could have become like a curious faux pas. Like, what is this? Why? And first of all, why is she lying about it? It could become like a mystery for him to unsolve. And again, guess what? The pattern of lying or white lies would continue. And those protective little white lies or soft lies would be considered acceptable. And then maybe he would even find himself in the same situation as his dad is right now with his future wife, telling small light lies or small soft lies to avoid uncomfortable conversations in order to save face. Yet, while he's doing that, he's, again, creating mountains of distress to somehow overcome. I don't want that for my son. Okay, but let's, again, shift into a different direction or pivot. What about Santa Claus, right? Or the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy? Are those lies? What's the difference between those soft lies and, as my husband likes to call them, white lies? What's the difference between those and the same lies we tell each other as adults? Well, I guess for me, it goes back to the same beautiful question that my sister presented to me. Is it true? Is it kind? And is it necessary? Is it kind and necessary to tell our kids that we're the ones who are taking the tooth from underneath their pillow? Is it necessary and kind to tell our kids that we're Santa Claus? And is it true and necessary and kind, or is it, more importantly, necessary and kind to tell our children that we're the ones who hide the Easter Bunny eggs? Okay, well, yes, maybe one day it may be necessary and definitely kind to tell them the truth about Santa and the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy and all those guys, right? But is it kind and necessary? Is it kind and necessary to tell them now while they're enjoying this beautiful, innocent childhood fantasy? For me, no, I don't think so. However, to each their own. Everyone has their own unique relationship with each other, with our marriages, and with our kids and our friends and our parents, but 1,000% with the divine, right? So we need to ask ourselves, our partners and all that we are in relations with, what our boundaries are. We need to have those uncomfortable conversations in order to understand, support, love, and trust each other and ourselves. We simply cannot do that unless we have these uncomfortable conversations to really know each other and ourselves. And with that, we accept our true selves and one another without judgment. Here's the thing. We may find we have some real core differences, and that's okay. The conversations still need to happen, or the cycles will continue, and it will literally spin out of control to the point where you find yourself thinking, how did we get here? And now what? So now what? What's the lesson? What's the moral of the story of lies? For me, personally, the lesson that I've learned, the moral of my own story of why my husband continues to lie to me and why my husband categorizes lies in the first place, is that no matter how hard I try, I cannot control my husband and his actions. Also, I no longer think that honesty is black and white. And I understand that now. And that's a good shift for me. There's actually a lot of gray, and I can appreciate that now. And even though my focal point was on my husband and his lies towards me, I actually saw a mirror image of myself and what conversations that I've been avoiding with my husband. Because how can we even have hope maneuvering out of this web of lies that we've created for ourselves if we don't even admit that the web exists? So right now, as I'm writing this episode and I'm sharing with you, I'm in the void. I'm in the gray, in the in-between, the really uncomfortable, right? the uncomfortable conversation of whether or not my husband and I are happy in our current marriage as it is. But it is here right now in this uncomfortable void where, guess what? The truth shall set us both free. One truth that I know is that I love my husband unconditionally. I love my husband unconditionally. And when I reveal my truth with him, it's actually a sign of me trusting him. And I view the same with him trusting me, that we will see the uncomfortable, ugly, yucky truth, yet still love all of me and all of him. That is what I wish for, as well as for all of us to understand and accept that even with all that we perceive to be ugly or uncomfortable, when we are brave enough to share our own truth with each other, it's actually an act of love. It bridges the gap of distrust that once was. There will always be unknown answers to possible scenarios and questions. And when we realize that we don't need to know the answers, that is when we are shown the way to be our authentic selves within ourselves and with each other. So I needed to have this very uncomfortable conversation with my husband, that I'm not happy with our marriage as it is. I needed and still need to speak my truth, that transparency and trust is a non-negotiable for me, and that I need my partner to understand and respect that. So I myself would be lying if I claimed that I've never bent the truth in order to save face or avoid hurting someone else's feelings. I probably do this more often than I know with my own kids and their artwork, However, when one partner in a relationship clearly communicates boundaries and the other one continues to cross them, that creates a lack of stability, trust, and respect that every relationship needs if it is to be a fulfilling one. So I'm not really sure how this conversation will unfold for me and my husband, because it's an ongoing conversation. Here's a heads up. When you start to become familiar with situations in your life that may be rubbing you like the wrong way, that may be a good indication it's because you were settling. And guess what? I'm sure you know this. We're not meant to settle. We're not meant to settle for a mediocre life. We're meant to thrive with our relationships with each other and within ourselves. You can't do that if you're lying to yourself or to your partner. I truly love my husband, and I will never stop loving him. And I've recently vowed to myself that I will also love, honor, and respect myself and my boundaries. We need to understand that compromise is completely different from settling. For far too long, I have given my divine power away to others. I could even say that I've shown codependency issues in the past. And I've examined how my husband, my boyfriend, or even my own mother has like treated me, or maybe said something that that didn't feel good, and how I could have driven them to say that or treat me in such a way, to lie, cheat, or say something hurtful. What it was, whatever it was, right? I made it about me. I somehow made their actions or their words directly about me. And when the fact is, everyone needs to hear this, no matter what I or you do or say, another's actions or words are simply not ours or our responsibility. What is my own responsibility and your own responsibility is to define and communicate our boundaries, my boundaries and your boundaries, to myself and to others. My words and my own actions are mine and only my responsibility. Okay, so what if someone pushes us to the edge and says crazy things, or I want to say crazy things and do crazy things because I'm at my freaking wit's end? Guess what? Still my responsibility. So now, how do I stop myself from going totally berserk if my husband continues to lie to me or whatever, if somebody does this or that? The answer is always, always, always the same. Very simple. Connect with the divine. The divine. God, our true partner. The divine is the one who we can always trust. Always. So you pathfinders out there, trailblazers, why am I fumbling on that word? I ask you, all of you, if you are ready to make a vow to yourself right now to partner with the one true love, guess who it is? The divine. The greatest thing about this will be a relationship that you are going to receive so much more than any other earthly relationship. The divine will hold you with simple truth, stability, stillness, and the ability to surrender. So the next time you're in these moments of like a possible reaction towards a betrayal or a lie from another, know that this is the only way. The only way to keep your cool is to surrender. Surrender that stuff to the divine. Because remember, we cannot control others. Ever, ever. Even if you think a simple little white lie will keep your loved one closer in the end, it's not. It's actually going to drive them away. And as my father-in-law has said in his own words, which is another profound thing, when you let go of control, you gain serenity. And so it is.